talking about mercurial energy, the planet of Mercury. Teaching every one of you guys, thank you so much for your continued support of our lives and our screens and the comments that many of you guys endeavor to do. I want to say, first of all, saying thank you too much and thank you and salutation to my madrina, my padrino, to my oba, and to all of my brothers and sisters in Ifa, Voodoo, Santeria, Lukumi, Congo, Palo, Mystic Ajay, those that are in the church and practicing the ATRs, and those that are not in the church but still yet practice the ATRs. I want to say to each and every one of you guys, I do not teach my personal beliefs or practices, but what I do is teach universal laws, because universal laws apply to each and every one of us. In life, I like to share a lot of my experiences, the insights that I have that I can give to anybody, whether you are intermediate, whether you're a beginner, whether you're advanced. These opportunities to hear from somebody that has been doing magic ever since I was a child. I'm 53 years of age at this point, and I teach these things to share with my melanated people, and also people that don't really understand the history and when it regards to magic. Now, when I say the word magic, I am really talking about energy, frequency, and vibration. Melanin is carbon. Carbon is the building block of life. This is the what everything is built on. And this is important when it comes down to conjure, mysticism, and being able to manifest. I want you guys to I don't know. Thank you for hitting that like as you come in. Hopefully, I checked to make sure my comments were on. If they're not, I'm gonna address that. But I want to say this: when it comes down to magic and spirituality, thank you so much for sharing that. That lets me know that comment zone. I teach. I've been practicing various of religions and spiritual practices, but I've always been true that I'm a Sagittarius. My moon is in Aries, and my rising sign Pisces, and because that is the foundation of my energetic flow. And no matter what tradition that I'm in, or whether I'm in church, or whether I'm around different types of churches, and whether I'm around elays or covens or people that congregate to do spiritual work or spiritual manifestation. Some in church, what we call them camp meetings. This is something that because normally this is on Wednesday our Bible study, and I want to break down why my subject is why philosophy is essential in the ATRs. And when we talk about the ATRs, we're talking about magic and manifestation. And what I like to explain to people, depending on the magical system, whether it's Kabbalah or whether you doing prayer work or affirmation, or whether you are decreeing a thing or you're speaking those things that be not as though they were, or you're a type of person that utilizes magical and spiritual items in order to channel energy, frequency, or vibration. I'm very big on crystals. I'm very big on herbs. I'm very big on meteorites. Anything that I can utilize to manifest and bring things to pass. I want to talk about this because this is very important. I live in actually in Florida, and I want to talk about philosophy. Philosophy is ruled by Sagittarius, but Mercury is an air sign, is intellectual. It's a mindset. It's when you find yourself in certain situations. Yes. Now let me say this. Somebody asked me a question about the work of God. And I'm gonna say this: whether you Baptist, Presbyterian, Lutheran, Catholic, or Catholicism, nobody believes the same way because nobody has the same experiences. And we use the terminology about God depending on the understanding of what God is to an individual. It depending on how they receive the information. This is why I personally do not teach my personal beliefs. I teach about universal laws and how they apply, whether you're utilizing the Bible or not, whether you're utilizing the Quran or not, whether you're utilizing the book of Psalms or not, or you're educating yourself through various of forms, whether you participate in certain classes, whether it's hoodoo or obia or conjure or ocha, lukumi or santeria. There's very, very, very different views about the work of God and what is required to do the work of God. I think that a lot of times we define the work of God based on our personal experience. What's up, my Cancer in the house? I want to talk about philosophy. And I want, whether you've been dabbling in magic or conjure all your life, or where you just started observing it, or whether you've been actually doing work or work for people. There's certain reasons why philosophy is essential. And I'm going to talk about this. It talks about the philosophy is the love of wisdom. Whether it's hoodoo, voodoo, santeria, lakumi, obia, patikis, lakumi, or santeria, kim damle, every spiritual system has a type of stories or type of parables where they give wisdom in those particular parables. And why that is important, and because Sagittarius is very, very big on that, I want to teach this. And a lot of us have heard some of the similar parables. You make your bed hard, you got to sleep in it. It don't matter what creed or color you are, whether you educated or not educated. You certainly start learning, whether you apply yourself to those parables or not, or that wisdom that is shared or not. You actually see the effects of when you make your bed hard, that you have to endure the application of that hardness. And my thing is, when people get involved in the magic, and people that have left the church, not a church, the church concept. The reason why I am against people teaching against the church, because I understand that every other spiritual system is a personal journey. The concept of church and philosophy of the church holds the multitude, or what we like to call in the black church or the black era, the collective. Melanated people of the collective. I don't know what they're saying. Thank you so much. I don't know what they were saying. But this is also important when it comes down to experiencing situations that may be hardship. And we lean, or should lean, to the wisdom of that said tradition, whether it's the commandments in the Bible, or the sayings of Mayat. Every the stories of the Orishas. These are all stories that give insight or give guidance or wisdom when it comes down to conjure, when it comes down to magic, when it comes down to making decision. I want to go to Proverbs. Mother Susan, I think I seen Mother Susan but I want to talk about this. Proverbs 24, the 3rd chapter through the 4th verse. And I really need you to hear this. It says, through wisdom is a house built. Wisdom allows you to build things. Then it says, and by understanding or clarity, that particular house is established. What's up there, Raina in the house? This is important. I don't care if you been in church all your life, whether it's Baptist, AME, Lutheran, Catholicism, however you derive your spirituality. In order to build stuff, you need wisdom. In order to establish what you built, you need understanding or clarity. It says in verse 4, and said, by knowledge shall the chambers or the rooms or the space be filled with all precious and pleasant riches. Each one of these aspects allow us to go through situations. When you get down and you got your two fish and 5 loaves of barley bread, you understand for that story in the Bible that God can take a little and and turn it into a whole lot. He can multiply your 2 fish and 5 loaves of bread. So that's whether you got $2, $20, whether you find yourself, I ain't got but one client, one person that's supporting you, and over time, through your dedication and your relationship with the spirit, whether that be ancestral, whether that be impungos, whether that be moretos, whether that be orishas, loas, these interactions that you're having, because the amount of faith that you are able to put in to what you're doing has a lot to do with philosophy. The stories that we have heard over time. One of the things I want to encourage people to do is to understand philosophy. Philosophy is the systematic study of a fundamental or basic questions regarding existence. People tell you about your purpose, knowledge, ethics, how you go about doing things. We in the church, we talk about right and wrong, good or bad, that which is of God and that which is of the devil. Those concepts, your ethics, your reasons. Philosophy covers your reason why you do things. We call it motive. When the Bible talks about the spirit, the word of God being able to discern the intent of the heart, the motive of why you want that, or why you are moving the way you're doing, or why you speaking the way that you're speaking. When you're able to understand, and this is my thing, if you find yourself experiencing something for the first time, and you start hearing that there is nothing new up under the sun, then you can gain wisdom from finding out or allowing yourself to be open to be attracted to people that have gone through similar things, and that gives an individual not only insight, but it gives them an opportunity to have courage. It gives them an opportunity to overcome what they're dealing with. Everything is not about getting out of something. You can utilize wisdom to get out of something. And you can also, I like to say, use wisdom to get to something. If you spend your life not adhering to the parables, the wisdom, the stories of your said tradition or your religion, it hinders you from building upon structure, building upon because the average person, and you ask them, let me finish this. It questions and regarding existence, knowledge, ethics, reason, and reality. If you are poor, you live one in reality. If you're rich, you live another reality. If you're straight, we're talking about sexual orientation, you live a different reality from somebody that's bisexual, or different reality than somebody that is gay. If you are educated, you have another reality. I want you to understand that you're interacting with people, places, and things that have different, thank you for hitting that like button, having different reality. And therefore, different wisdom applies to different people and their situation. And there's things about being protected, being blessed, being cleansed, being guided. A lot of people ask me questions a lot of times and asking me, okay, Apostle, what do I do about my said situation? And the reason why I don't like telling people what to do is because you need to develop critical thinking. I feel that a lot of people that have left the church, they do this in a relationship. You never talk about the good that you got in that relationship. Just like you don't bring up the good that you got out of communion of the congregation. A sense of belonging, a sense of encouragement, that people do things because you're a part of the congregation, or you're part of the elay, you're a part of the tribe, you're a part of the pack, so to speak. And there's a lot of benefit in that. There's wisdom not being out here on your own. There's wisdom in understanding how you can be independent and still be interdependent, and depending on your spirit or your God, or within. There's a reason why a lot of philosophy is this. My understanding is built upon wisdom. I'm always trying to understand the insight to a situation. What's the wisest thing to do in this given situation? Who to trust when you are in a situation? The wisdom behind that. Why you should not be swift to speak, but yet slow to speak and swift to hear. There's things that we hear, and we hear from other people, that sometimes we don't take that philosophy on. I believe to speak positive. And what we call positive is having a favorable outcome. I also understand, because I understand energy, frequency, and vibration, that I can't have a charge without positive and a negative. So no matter what you're going through, there's duality to what you're going through. There's an opposite side to what you're going through, what you're dealing with. Thank you so much. And thank you for hitting that like button. I believe that a lot of times when it comes down to conjure and magic, that we don't really embrace the wisdom that's been given. We don't look for that wisdom until we actually are in something. And there's many teachings, not only in the Bible, but the Quran or other books that have been written, that people share their wisdom from their experience. When you find that somebody is on the path of spirituality, some of the wisdom that I try to share them, always know the history of your said tradition. Know where it came from. Know the purpose of why it was actually created. When you hear people talk about hoodoo, hoodoo wasn't a thing. But hoodoo was created out of necessity. When your magic is out of necessity, it doesn't mean that it has wisdom to deal with oppression. Haitian voodoo was already existing, but the way that the Haitian people utilized the loas became a system of how magic is operated in Haiti or with Haitian people. But the word voodoo is actually a French word for spirit. So spirit has always been existing. The principles of Ache, the principles of Chi, the principles of energy, frequency, or vibration has always existed. We put labels on things to categorize them in order for us to have a better understanding, or also be able to teach. If I tell you right now that Mark, Luke, John never existed, and that Christianity took those principles from Egyptology, which is Kemet, which is African magic, and the Egyptian people were an intelligent people, melanated people, and they were also great architects and great builders. But it took a tremendous amount of wisdom that those people possessed. And when melanated people are in these times, because a lot of people feel like they back up against the wall. They feel like a lot of stuff is happening and they can't get ahead. First of all, the wisdom I have for you, if you don't have a vision, you don't have a goal for your life, then you're going to fall into the goals or vision of other people. I'm going to say this again. Your income is being controlled because you're applying yourself in somebody else's vision and goal, which is nothing wrong with that. But when you start believing in yourself more, you start learning the principles by which they are established. That's the understanding. But what built something is the wisdom behind it. Why it is built that way. Why it utilized those type of material. I'm going to say this. It has been the wisdom of the divine, the wisdom of my ancestors, the wisdom of my teachers, the wisdom of those elders that I was around, that allowed me to mentally and emotionally overcome a lot of the situations that I have gone through. um, knowing how to put back for a rainy day. These are all principles, wisdom that I was imparted to. I try to get on here and let melanated people know that there's no wisdom in demonizing things that look like you, that represent you. When you don't understand what sulfur is, or we call it, some people call it brimstone, and you don't understand how the reason why you don't demonize sulfur is because sulfur is actually inside your body. A lot of people don't understand the wisdom behind saying, I am the microcosm of the universe. They don't see the wisdom in it. All they see is this organism. You have that organism for you to exist spiritually on this earth plane. But you are much more than what you see and what you hear. And when you get an opportunity to have insight to the wisdom behind being the microcosm of the universe, other things start to make sense. And that's what we talk about clarity, or in all you're getting, get understanding. You need to understand why candle burning. It went from oil lamps was considered a candle to wax candles, which is still a candle. But the purpose of why it was engineered and why it makes sense to burn a candle, why it makes sense to burn incense, why it makes sense to do cleansing with water or any fluid, how to utilize earth or herbs in your cleansing or in your protection or in your money manifestation. Wisdom of philosophy exists in every tradition. And I'm going to say this. Just like we ignore, we can repeat the wisdom that we heard through the years. But a lot of times we never applied it. We heard a lot of things about, I remember this young lady was telling me about a Jamaican proverb. Proverbs are the book of wisdom. I would tell people, when you want wisdom, go into the book of Proverbs. And the proverb was that there was a fox that saw a plum in the tree. And the fox kept jumping for the plum, but he could not obtain the plum from the tree. And the fox said in this parable, when he could not obtain this plum, he said, it's probably rotten anyway. This is people that go after something, and when they don't obtain it, they make something wrong with it. They don't look at the fact that they spent their time, their energy, their frequency and vibration trying to achieve this. But because they don't achieve it or obtain it, now there's something wrong with it. There's a problem when you are that type of person. Whether it's a fox or whether it's a turtle, the character don't matter. It's the wisdom behind the story that's being told. The same thing that is true when it comes to the boy that cried wolf. I came up, people say, don't sell them wolf tickets. When you get out here in this spiritual journey, don't sell wolf tickets. Yes, you have ancestors. Yes, you have a certain element of power. But if you're not skilled in your craft or your manifestations or your ability to connect with other energies outside of self, then don't go out here giving and selling wolf tickets, declaring things that don't exist, saying that you feel a type of way that is not reality. Let me tell you something. When it comes down to understanding philosophy and why it exists and why we should give ear to wisdom, there's a point in the Bible it talks about when wisdom was crying in the streets. You didn't hear it. We give all kind of wisdom about magic. We give our wisdom not demonizing, especially those that have never taken out the time to know the history behind why ATRs were demonized. What was going on? Why certain things were private. We call it gatekeeping. Why the same reason why people don't share their recipes. Because a lot of people will come in, glean from your field, and never give you credit. So you got to have wisdom. I remember my mom was telling me about she was talking about spirituality. And she said this, and it holds true today. But I was told when I was very young. She said, people, when they getting what they want, is not going to have a problem. It's when they don't get what they want, they're going to have a problem. That's when the name calling going to come forth. When I'm telling you about this spiritually, this is also wisdom when it comes to friendship. This is wisdom. What's up, my Boaz? This is wisdom that comes forth in every area of life. When you picking up your friend for work and you couldn't, there's a situation that happened where you couldn't pick them up this particular time. Now all of a sudden your car raggedy. Now all of a sudden now it's the dirtiest car they ever been in. This is the kind of stuff that gives you wisdom. And you start realizing, or you being enlightened to be able to look past that. Let me tell you something. I'm 53 years old. And I've been sexual for a very long time. I know who want me and who don't want me. I know who want to experience me and still don't want me. That's wisdom. Wisdom will have you in a position you know the outcome before it ever takes place. I'm going to say this again. Before certain things go on, your insight to that situation will have you ahead of the game before they ever apply or execute their plan. People want me to overlook certain things about them that they would never overlook about me. This is why I believe in divination or reading people or reading energy or reading the room. So I know how to position myself. Let me tell y'all something. I had a member of my church, and Sister Shirley, and she used to say this all the time. She said, a promise given is a bait for a fool. Let me tell y'all something about word salad. Word salad, people can say a lot of things. Don't mean they're gonna stand on their word. The philosophy about your word being your bond people will repeat that, but everybody don't live by that philosophy. They don't live by that system. Faithfulness, loyalty. Let me tell you something, and that's in the ATR, that's in the church world. A lot of people don't believe it's worth it to be faithful because of things that happen in their life. There are people out there talk about we all God's children, but they will never treat people like they're God's children. They will treat people like they're their enemy. I listen to what people say to me because a lot of times people are telling you what's on their mind because based off something you've said or done. I don't let nobody play me when I already have the wisdom that I've been given. If you were not trying to manipulate somebody when it comes to finances, when it comes to relationship, when it comes to promotion on the job, and you really believe that you are due something because of the work that you put in, that means you believe in the philosophy, energy out, energy in. And you have a reason. But there's a lot of people that claim that they live by certain philosophies that they don't live by. They're helpful. They will guard you. They will protect you. They will lead you if you apply those philosophies of that particular tradition. But the average person, not realizing it takes work to actually understand the philosophy and understand why it's necessary. I used to hear my grandmother say, trouble easy to get in and hard to get out. Trouble, disturbances are easy to be a part of, but it's not easy to disengage from that disturbance or that trouble. That applies in every aspect of your life. This is why I don't jump with people like that. That's why I use the philosophy knowing how far to go with people. These are the wisdoms that people learn on their journey and why they are important. This keeps my heart from being overwhelmed. This keeps my stress level down. This keeps a lot of unnecessary pressure off my back. And what I try to do for people, because if you only see that because I'm wearing my leg case, and that's the only time you feel I'm spiritual. If you got to visit me in a shrine, why don't you understand that everybody has a divine spark, whether they're initiated or not? And if you wouldn't want it done to you, then don't do it to somebody else. I don't tell people how to do spells that I don't believe in, but I still got enough wisdom to know how those spells are done so I can reverse them or protect myself or my client from those particular workings. It is not wisdom to have somebody that is naive about life. It's not wisdom to associate yourself or disassociate yourself with somebody that is invested in their spirituality. People, let me tell you something. There's a reason why they say, stick there and see what the end gonna be. Sometimes you can move too early. Sometimes you can move too swift. Sometimes you can throw your hand too fast. And those that do conjure or deal with life, they understand that there were times that they showed their hand too fast. Beyonce got a song out there, and a part of the lyrics is that she dodged a bullet. I'm glad you showed your ass, because what I was going to do, now that I see your motives, now I see your intention, appreciate that. Let me tell y'all something. Never underestimate wisdom. There's a thing that I grew up on this, but it's a statement: you can't outfox the fox. You ain't clever enough. A lot of us miss out on stuff, miss out on relationships, miss out on longevity. Longevity means a long time, because we too hasty. Whether it's fear, whether it's doubt, whether it's unbelief, whether it's a distraction. You should never, especially the older you get, just jump up and do stuff. I used to do that when I was young. I was talking to my son, I was talking to Sister Tree, and I was just saying, I said, you know what? Because I'm not a homebody. I ain't never been. I'm always on the go. But this process that I've been going through, I've been having to stay home. Resting. And certain things are a certain type of way where I can't move about like I used to. Or that temptation for me to be able to jump up and go. So I'm taking my time about how I'm stepping out there. I'm taking my time in repositioning myself. Also listening to what people are saying. I used to be big on this, I don't care what they say. I still didn't know what they hear. And my eldest son taught me that. And we were talking about politics. And he said, Dad, you need to hear what they discussing so you'll know what state of mind they're in. Because I was really big on, if I thought you were talking crazy, I cut you off. I wouldn't hear you out. I don't do that no more. I let people speak their heart. The Bible says from the abundance of the heart, the mouth speak. When people have certain issues, they have a way of saying those issues. When they have a problem with something, they have a way of declaring that. And that thing I be trying to tell y'all, when it comes to money, it comes to owning stuff, you better have some wisdom. These spiritual streets, these situations, some of y'all like, I have people say, oh, I know you feel this way, I know you said this, and I know you said that. Anytime somebody is pulling what you said or did out of context, it's not for your benefit. They're not seeking for clarity. They're not seeking for understanding. They're not seeking for resolution. They're seeking for opportunity to blame you for something. Anytime somebody pulls a conversation or an action out of context, what that means is all you talk about is that I slapped you. You never said why I slapped you. Because if you bring the context into play, it's going to change the perception of those that are listening to you. I understand that everybody ain't going to go all the way. I already know that. I got enough wisdom to know that. I'm trying to tell you to sit there and expect somebody to do something for you that they ain't doing for themselves, you're setting yourself up. Thank you for the likes. It's time for you that want to do magic to understand the philosophy behind these teachings. Understand why it's essential in the ATRS. Understanding why it's essential that everybody ain't your friend. Everybody don't want the best for you, even though they're saying they want the best for you. How do you want the best for me when you're doing what you're doing or not doing what you're doing? How can you claim to be a part of something that you're not participating in? I don't believe in wishful thinking. I don't stop people from thinking what they're thinking. I don't stop people from doing the things that they're doing. But me personally, from the wisdom that God has given me, application. I've always believed love is an action word. Everything, I love God, but I don't know everything about God. But I do endeavor to learn. If a man or woman love you and they're not trying to learn you and they're saying they love you, that's not true. Because you can't properly love somebody or something if you don't have an understanding of it. You don't know how to properly take care of it. If you're concerned about your health, then why don't you know enough about your body? What to do for your body? If you love resources, I often say money, but resources, you need to understand those resources and how to apply those resources. I have a lot of things that I can work with, but I'm always asking, what should I do? I'm seeking wisdom. What would be the move that I need to make right now? What can I afford to let go, and what can I afford not to let go? That's wisdom. Don't be in a rush because a situation is going on to take action. A lot of times people think they know how something is going to turn out, and they make their move. I remember being in my ministry, and I had made certain statements. And when I made certain statements, I had an individual stood up and was like, "Oh, I'm supportive, but I'm not here like that." All the time they were pretending to me that they were with me like that. And my son told me, I thought there was... Some people are very good at putting on a show. Rihanna said it best. Give you a round of applause, because you played that part. But it was not authentic. I'm 53 years old. I done been through it. I test everything. I test people's action. I test their words. I look for consistency. I look for inconsistency. I look for patterns. Because energy does not lie. Before you pray a prayer, why do they tell you to sit down first and count up the cost? Why do I need to sit down and count up the cost before I go to war? Trump didn't count up the cost. and you can't back out of it. Why would I not sit down and count up the cost? Even when I was getting ready to purchase this house, I was looking not only what I was making, but what I had saved up. Also, where I'm going to be in 10 or 15 years. I'm signing this contract now, but what will happen to me? And I start trying to secure myself before I even purchased this house. Before I even pursued this house. I was talking. I was investigating. I was running numbers. I was running scenario. Nobody knows everything. Nobody knows what tomorrow holds, so to speak. But the point of, if you, whether it's buying a house, whether it's in a relationship, I'm not going to let somebody make me believe that they want marriage with me and it's only a sex thing. And I don't care if you gay, straight, or bi. I'm not going to let you lead me into something without me sitting down and factually counting up the cost. Can I afford to do this? Can I afford to interact with certain people? This is where wisdom comes into play. And this ain't about you falling out with this person or that person. It's about you having the wisdom of knowing how to navigate in this thing called life. And utilizing the wisdom of your particular tradition. All of them have them. They have writings that tell stories, that have a message and a point for the individual that is listening. And I see too many people walk over these stories. Whether they're about the Rishas, whether they're about Jesus, whether they're about Joshua, Ruth, all these things. What's up, my crab case in the house? Monique 444. This wisdom will help you navigate and knowing what to do. I'm pretty sure that some of you done found yourself in life say, oh, I'm so glad I ain't jumped the gun. Jumping the gun can land you in the places that you don't want to be. Jumping the gun will make you say things that you wish you had never had said. Jumping gun will make you take actions, and now you regret taking them actions. I'm a fire sign. I'm get up and go. Before I do a working, before I do a spell, before I receive a client, I'm gonna do my homework. Ain't got nothing to do with my personal like or dislike for an individual. Can I afford to give this type of time to this person? How long does this person, or will they be in my life? Can I afford to deposit certain things into them? These are the things you need to consider when you are in this spiritual journey, around spiritual leaders. There are certain things that I want in before I get 60. So there are certain things that I'm paying attention to. I'm trying to get myself positioned to travel, but I'm taking my health in consideration, because that's something I thought I had a hold on, because I never was a sickly person until I got into my 50s. I started going through all the stuff that I've been through. But my point is that if I had not applied the wisdom, I wouldn't be able to bounce back like I'm bouncing. I'm not telling you not to do magic. I'm not telling you not to get initiated. I'm not telling you not to get involved. I'm not telling you any of that. What I am saying, there's a reason why philosophy is essential. The wisdom that you hear from people that have been there and done that. Do I know how to do a breakup spell? Yes. Do I know how to break up a happy home? Yes. Do I do it? No. Because I heard the wisdom behind making those decisions. I've seen the evidence on people's lives that went that route. Magic is not bad. It's your mindset. Philosophy guides your way of thinking. It guides your morals. It's your values. And that don't mean that everybody live up to all the morality in the universe. That ain't true either. But there's certain things I don't participate in. And I'm not talking about the origin, because I do. But there's even principles that I'm telling you, even when you doing what you call wrong or living life. And my grandma used to say this all the time. And she been among the ancestors since 1990. And she used to say this. She said, it ain't what you do, it's how you do it. Sometimes you can do things that people are apprehensive of, but it's the way you handle that situation. It matters how you do things. Yes, it matters why you did it, but also when you did it, how you did that. When you became aware of other people that were affecting of how you did it. I decided a long time ago. I'm 53 years old. I came to my own conclusion. If you're gonna tell the truth, you're gonna lose people. If you're gonna be a seeker of truth, you're going to offend people. I need y'all to really get this. I don't care if you're a water sign. I don't care if you're an air sign. I don't care if you're an earth sign or a fire sign. When you understand your element and you know what you bring to the table and you know that certain things about you are going to ruffle feathers, the wisdom is prepare yourself for it. I have been in so many situations where people try to snatch the rug from up under my foot. And I already knew and had prepared myself. So when they pulled that rug, I didn't fall. I didn't stumble. I didn't slip. When you're not aware of what could possibly happen in life and you're not putting up safeguards for your living and you're not applying yourself in a way that secures you, that's why most people like, oh, I thought this was gonna happen. I thought that was gonna happen. Because you looked at that situation and my situation as it was you. You not prepared. Or you're not as prepared as I am about a lot of things. And I learned to be prepared because of the philosophy that I live by. When I say I'm prepared for a rainy day, when I start going through this health issue, I had resources stored up so I can weather this storm. And the quicker I'm coming out of this storm, the more I can do other things with those resources. Right then, what I was going through, I pulled all my resources. But as I've been coming out of, basically coming out the woods, I got that through wisdom and trusting in herbs and trusting in the system by which I live. Showing gratitude to people that gave me a helping hand, that supported me. Some of y'all don't understand gratitude. That thing, gratitude, being thankful, because if you're consciously grateful for what people do, it'll diffuse a lot of the aggravation and frustration you have interacting with people. Sister Monique have told me, oh, Pastor, you so patient. And I'm like, well, I ain't patient. I got wisdom. And I be patient. But actually, that's not a strong point of mine. But I know how, through wisdom, I know how to be patient. Because the Bible says it like this: in patience, you possess your soul. You keep yourself together. You keep yourself cool, calm, and collected. I trust certain people with certain information. I trust certain people to do certain things for me. I never, just like God, this concept, just like God don't put more on a person than they can bear, I don't do that with people. I would never put more on you than you have the capabilities of doing. When he said my yoke is easy and my burden is light, that's why I'm efficient the way that I am. I ain't always been efficient. I end up getting efficient over time. And through the wisdom, the philosophies that I had learned and why they were so important. This is why people cannot do. One of the things that I know people take credit for stuff, a lot of stuff, especially bad people. For somebody downfall or they setback or, because they need to feel powerful. Let me explain something to you. Only God's wisdom is unsearchable. If you don't keep growing, somebody can catch up with the wisdom that you have, and surpass it. The knowledge, surpass it. The understanding, surpass it. Evolution is essential to me because I'm a truth seeker. I want to know the truth about the systems I'm operating in. I want to know the truth about the people and places that I'm engaging in. And that wisdom, that's why I say I'm not gonna do that, because I don't want that energy attachment. Or I say, even though I don't have as much certainty about this, because I heard Spirit speak to me to do this, I'm gonna be obedient. This is why you hear me, if you've ever been really, really around me, I talk about obedience is better than sacrifice, because there are times in your journey that you just don't know. And you just have to believe and move forward in that. A lot of people, and this only for just informational purposes, educational purposes only. A lot of people say they hear from God, or the Spirit spoke to them. And that's fine. I don't spend my life telling people what they don't hear or they don't see. That's not, it's no sweat off my back, so to speak, or what off my back. I watch their patterns. I said many times to Mother Susan on different occasions, I am so glad I did that. I'm so glad I did that, and that. And now that this is happening, I'm already in position. There's things that could go in your life that you not necessarily know why you're doing what you're doing. Having things up under your belt. This is why I set up my website the way that I did. This is why I teach like I teach. I already know what I have to offer. And now that I'm getting in a place where I can start maneuvering much better and more efficiently in what I'm trying to accomplish. And then also, let me tell you something, because there's a time you can get involved in this. Always have more than one way for revenue or currency. Let me explain why. Everything, every form of business has a high and a low. And you need wisdom in every one of those economic tides that you're in. But you got to hang around that particular business long enough to learn the highs and the lows. So that takes time. And a lot of people don't take time. In spiritual business and spiritual journey, you need to know your mandate. You need to know what you are able to get your hands on. You need to know what makes you viable to the community. When I go back on certain social media platforms, they be like, Apostle, I miss you. Blah, 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 blah. If your presence does not create impact, your absence won't either. I learned that too. If you are not showing up, I learned how to live without you. Your absence becomes less effective in my life. And I tell people, especially those who want to be in a relationship, don't ever let a man or woman, I don't care if you're gay, straight, or bi, I don't care if it's even family. If you ain't present and you ain't an asset and you ain't showing up and you're not making their world go round, this is why you hear people say, if you ain't effing me, feeding me, there's three of us. Financing me, effing me, or feeding me. Yeah. If you ain't in those departments, 9 times out of 10, your absence ain't gonna move nothing. When I say God is a very present help in a time of trouble, it's because the impact. That's where my security coming from. The presence. When you're really out here, you trying to understand why certain things are being said to you or around you, it's because you need to catch on to the wisdom behind that. My grandma used to say this too. She said, the biggest liar tell the truth sometimes. Y'all hear me? The biggest liar tell the truth sometimes. Ifa, voodoo, Santeria, I don't care how much, they're a big liar. Sometimes they just tell the truth. You can't get so accustomed to somebody that's a liar not telling the truth. Do you miss the truth that they're saying? I'm gonna say that again. Just because you know that they're a liar don't mean they're always lying. Is it worth trying to decipher what they tell them truth or not? Yes. But you just can't say somebody lying. Because somebody been stealing for 50 years don't mean they stole from you. So you can't call them a thief. That's wisdom. Don't let somebody's reputation with other people make you fall in line with that situation. And you, because they ain't never lied to you, they ain't never stole from you, you don't have a right to call them a thief or a liar. You don't have those interactions. The wisdom behind that, because if you can do it to them, that means somebody can do it to you. And you shouldn't have a problem. Because what's good for the goose is good for the gander. I always tell people like this. If you got a problem with me and the way I do conjuring, people going to have a problem with you and the way you do conjuring. Because nobody sees it all the same. And nobody has the same desire. I'm not trying to pull anybody into anything. I'm seeking people that resonate with me. That resonate with what I'm putting down. And they picking it up. Because I believe, through my philosophy, that quality matters more than quantity. There are people that are going to tell you that they believe that, but you can see by their actions that more the merrier. This is what I tell them. This, and I hate to use, I not necessarily hate to use orgy. Like, there's only so much tail you can get. I don't care how you swing. There's only humanly possible, only so much you can get. So somewhere you're gonna have to figure out what do I really like? What do I really get into? Is all that necessary? And the reason I'm telling you that is because of wisdom. There's somebody for everybody. Do you have to wait on him or her? Yes. But there's somebody that can with you. And you ain't got to be in a relationship as in husband and wife, but that person can complement your life quite well. This is why it's essential. This is why I talk about wisdom. In Proverbs 24, 3 and 4, I base a lot of my actions on that. Why you hear me always talking about knowledge, wisdom, and understanding? Because when you're building things, you need those elements. You need people to understand where you're going. You don't want to be out here in the spiritual community looking confused. I don't believe I have to wear my eleques to be a santero. Just like I don't believe I have to dress up in a suit to be a pastor or a minister. Just like I don't believe I have to have on my polo beads to be a Tata and Kisi. Because if you need physical things to help you identify, or Masonic, or you need physical things to identify your energy. I think I was talking to Monique. I was actually on the phone with her, and I was in one of the botanicals that I had recently started going to, and they couldn't tell I was crowned. A lot of people got a lot of form of godliness, a form of their tradition, but they denied the power of that particular tradition. And the fact that I'm as spiritual as I am, and I need to adorn myself with certain things in order for you to recognize. So it's not for me, because I already know who I am. Sometimes I put my hats on, I put my attire on, and I start banging it for as a Santero. Sometimes I put my Palo stuff on. Sometimes I put my hoodoo, root work, or voodoo on, depending on what I'm operating or what system I'm operating. And I apply those philosophies individually, because there's wisdom in separating those traditions. But I'm going to be the same person. I'm going to hold the same ideas and ideological perspective of how I think and function. I want to be true to my character. When people tell you to walk in your truth, how can you walk in a truth that you don't really know about you? Stop taking what people are saying as though it's just that simple. We evolve. We go from layer to layer, to one level to the next level, to one dimension to the next. And whether you get all you need to get while you're here on this earth, get you some understanding. Get you some understanding. Why do I need to be yoked up with that person? Get some understanding. Why do I listen to that person? Get you some understanding. Why do I need to participate in the events or the ritual that they're doing? A lot of times people have a problem with the ritual because they don't have no understanding. They don't know how magic works. To be participating in a ritual means that this is going to be something I'm going to be doing over and over and over. That's why it's called a ritual or a rite. It's something that you do continuously over and over. Burning your particular candles, burning your particular incense, doing your particular washes or cleansing. It is wisdom I share to people, especially Black American people, about the economic necessity that you need to have in order to function in your said tradition. Some cost more than others. But you don't have to do it like me. You don't have to go as far or deep. I never said you have to do it like me. When you're comparing yourself to people, that's why you feel like you got to keep up. But if you're running your own race, you're tending to your own pocket. You need certain people more than they need you. And I'm going to say this in my closing. I'm going to give you some wisdom. You never trade out 20% for your 80. You're going to know how much somebody impacts your life when they're no longer present. I've watched people over the years. You're not going to get what you were getting here over there. I need you to understand that. This is when you take things for granted. This is why the prodigal son said these words in the scripture. The hired servants in my father's house are living better than me. To live good and to benefit, I don't even have to go back as a son. My father's servants are taken care of. If you don't appreciate people being present in your life, you appreciate it when it's gone. That's philosophy. Why you think, even through this election, the politics, why they mad with black people, black men and women? And let me tell y'all something. I'm gonna give you some wisdom to all of my female practitioners, those that channel energy, frequency, and vibration. The reason why the Ankh exists, it expresses the unity between the feminine energy and the masculine energy. What deceives a lot of us is that we get so far in life until we find out that we're missing something. There are certain things you will never touch. There are certain things you will never see outside of certain individuals. I'm going to say it again. There are certain people that have to be a part of your process in order for you to go to certain places in your life. And when you don't understand that, and you don't know that, and you ain't got enough wisdom to know that, I could never have been where I am in Ocha, Lukumi, and Santeria if it wasn't for Padrino Michael. He had connection I didn't have. If it wasn't for my first Madrina, or my second Madrina, my Oba, there are people that were part of the ladder climbing. This is important when it comes to magic. And if you get into it long enough, you're going to understand why you don't burn bridges. Your actions speak way louder than your words. Stop saying stuff to people that you're not going to fulfill. The Bible said it like this: it's better to not make an oath than to make one and break it. This is why I have membership on my platform. You know why? Because some of you are not consistent. And you don't need to get initiated into things until you actually understand what all entails in that situation. Because if you initiate, that's for life. That's for life, sir, and that's for life, ma'am. You can throw away your cauldrons, you can throw away your orishas, you can throw away your spiritual fetishes, but that contract is forever. That's why you sit down first and really kind of don't get into something because somebody tell you. Because you think they're so powerful. There's a lifestyle behind that. And your perceived shortcomings don't have nothing to do with your destiny. And you should not allow people to let your shortcomings or what they perceive as your shortcomings hinder what God got for you. I'm sharing some real solid wisdom. And it's philosophy. These stories that you hear about in these particular traditions, these parables, are essential to your evolution. Don't let nobody tell you you don't need wisdom. Because wisdom says, I cried loud in the streets and you ignored me. But in your day of calamity, I'm going to laugh. You're not going to outdo wisdom. I don't care who possesses it. You're not going to outdo. Knowing what energy, frequency, and vibration can do in your life and your connection to other people, places, and things. But when you forget the bridge that brought you cross, there come with consequences. All right. God bless you. Thank you so much, and thank you for hitting that like button and the share and the comments behind this video. If you feel the video found you in a good place where you can relate and understand what I was sharing, knowing that magic is a part of mindset, and it's make sure that you share this video. All right. God bless.